Welcome back to the i427 garage, everybody. We are on the final stretch. We need to get this car ready so that we can get it back to Jeff Miller's. So pretty much everything we're going to do in this video is going to be towards that end. And then on the next video, we'll probably be doing a four-wheel alignment on the car. And that will be the last thing we do before we get it over to Jeff Miller. So let me turn the camera around. I'll get you guys caught up on what I've been doing the last couple nights and about the nervous breakdown that I had last night trying to get some of this electrical stuff troubleshot. Alright, when I got home from work last night, I decided it was going to be a good evening for me to go through and start connecting all the electrical connections, the battery charger, stuff like that. And so what I did primarily was to get things like the turn signal switch just plugged in, the front parking / turn signal lights plugged in, the rear tail lights plugged in. The headlight switch has been plugged in since I put the plate. We've got this plate right here that we made and had powder coated for the headlight switch. And you can see now how easy this thing is to get in here to get to. I mean, it's almost like this curve here is just meant for that plate to house that headlight switch. So got that stuff in. I think I got this in the last video, I think. But you know, the carpeting is done. We wrapped that up in the last video. And so what I wanted to start doing was start turning things on throughout the car. So, you know, turning on the parking and the tail lights just to make sure all that worked properly, because, you know, honestly, I've gotten to this point in the past and started turning things on, and some of the wires within the Ron Francis harness have been reversed. And so if you don't get a direct short because they've pinned something wrong, then, you know, one switch will activate something it's not supposed to. And so the process of going through and finding out where the wires got crossed can sometimes be time consuming. But that wasn't the case this time. I mean, I was having a pretty good evening. I turned on the parking lights. I think I've previously tested the headlights, so I'm pretty sure they work, but we'll get to that as well. And then I decided to check the brake lights, and I got nothing. But I'll circle back to that in a minute. So when I didn't get brake lights, I thought, well, I might as well try the turn signals. But before I did that, I thought, well, a good win is always the four-way flashers, because they almost always work. Turn that switch on, nothing. So keep in mind, at that time, I did have the dash out of the car. I had the dash sitting over on the back of the F350 workbench, and so I didn't have these two plugs plugged in. And then it dawned on me that a lot of those turn signal and four-way flasher wires actually combined on the dash side of the harness. And so if they're not plugged in, the loop that they need to go through in order to accomplish their necessary action isn't there. So I stopped right there and I thought, okay, well, I found the problem. Still can't account for the brake light switch, right? But I plugged in the harness and I turned the four-way flashers on, and boom, they worked. It was awesome. So I think I've still got the battery connected. So I should be able to hit this switch, and then you can see the four-way flashers are working. So I've got the taillights just shoved up there so I can see when I activate the turn signals, the brake lights, and the parking lights. And then in the front, I actually have the turn signals still in the boxes. There's one over there, and there's one over in that box right there you can see flashing. So that was a win, because I was able to turn that on and clear victory for the day. I got 4-way flashers, yay! But then I tried the turn signals. And I couldn't for the life of me figure out why the turn signals weren't working. My first inclination was something to do with the flasher. So I checked the flasher. Now I haven't connected the ground permanently. What I'm going to do for this electronic flasher is I'm actually going to put a spade connector on there. And then I'm going to splice into probably one of the grounds up here. Just so that it is disconnectable in the future. But it is touching right there and it does work. So what this led me to was something with that trailer light converter that Factory 5 supplies with all the kits since the 25th anniversary cars, because they've gone to these rectangular lights in the back. And so now you're combining the turn signal and the brake signal into one light. And so it has to have a means of disconnecting one in order to activate the other when it goes into that feature. So I thought long and hard about that turn signal, or that trailer light converter. And it was near the end of the evening, and I had already had dinner, and I just thought, well, I'll just do it tomorrow. But going in the house just kind of made me percolate more, and I was not happy about the fact that I could not get these turn signals to work. So at about 9 o'clock last night, 9:30, I came back out to the shop. I pulled that trailer light converter out. I grabbed another one that I had here in the shop from a previous kit that we didn't use. And I think I have one more. I'll have to dig that up before I wrap this video up. But I think I have one more over in the toolbox over there. So, but it wasn't the same brand. And so the one I had that I used was the same brand. So last night at 9:30 or 10 o'clock, by the time I actually got into work mode again, I repinned that new turn signal / trailer light converter for the car to our weather pack connectors that I'd installed. I put it back in the car and everything worked. Now, I had a little meltdown on social media last night. I was pissed because I have dealt with these trailer light converters before on cars, and using them on for hooking up trailers on the back of trucks, and it's a pain in the ass. Sometimes they work, most times they don't. So I had gone to the point where anytime I had to put one of these in the truck or in a truck, I always got the powered trailer light converter, which takes a separate 12-volt source to power the converter. So it's not reliant on the turn signal flasher power or the brake light power in order to activate them. So it has its own power, and so it just activates an electronic relay inside or on the board of the converter itself. So I found they're a little bit more reliable. But I put the new one in and everything worked. And so for my little meltdown and everybody that saw it on Facebook, yeah, I got it to work. And we are going to run it the way it is, because the way we've mounted it, it's replaceable in about 40 minutes. So if the owner ever has a problem with this, and he's kind of an electronics guy anyways, it's something that he can handle if he had to replace it. We're going to stick with it, because to rewire this with the dual relays that I would normally use, that we used on Michael's car, as a matter of fact, would be very labor intensive at this point, because we'd have to rewire the turn signal switch that we got from Russ Thompson in order to accommodate those two relays. Because you don't send the flasher power through the turn signal switch, you actually send active 12-volt power through it, switch 12-volt power, but that's how you activate each of the two relays. So we're going to leave it the way it is, and we're going to see how it works out. I'm hoping that it'll have a good long life. But we got everything working, and at this point, that's what was most important. But we have been working on some other things too. So we got the carpeting done, and I had showed you guys where I had thought that I was going to put the lights in the trunk for the trunk lights, and I do have those finished, and I do have a good majority of the wiring in the trunk finished up to where once the trunk lid goes on, we'll be able to finish. But so here you go. Here's the finished lights. Let me get this out of the way. And they're very, very subdued, meaning they don't stand out because they're kind of this dark smoked finish. They don't stand out at all. So there's one over here, and then there's one over here. And this is our tilt switch. This tilt switch is going to be mounted onto the trunk deck lid itself. And so when this gets elevated like this, you can see it turns the trunk lights on. So that light is on. That light's on. And then when I release this down, they turn off again. So nice clean installation, and those are all finished up, and those are done. The lights for the footwells or the foot boxes came out super nice. So if you remember, we put these in on the last video while we were doing the carpeting, and these get turned on right here. And so there's one over here, and there's one over there on that side of the car. So these are going to make it really nice. So, you know, if you were, you know, out somewhere at night and you happen to drop your keys on the black carpeting with no light, you can turn those, reach under the dash, turn those lights on, you know, see where you dropped your keys, grab those. Or if you're driving and, you know, your significant other is on the other side of the car and she needs something out of her purse or out of her pocketbook or something out of, you know, you got a backpack or something in the car to rifle through, it'll give just enough light that, you know, you can kind of go through whatever it is you're trying to find and identify it, pull it out, and then you have it ready to go. So those are working out really nice. The dash lights really look nice at night. Now, I did put some pictures up on Facebook. If you guys follow us on Facebook, go over there. I'm not going to insert a picture here because by the time I transfer it to YouTube, the picture is going to end up really blurry. And I don't think I'm going to include, you know, I'm not going to come out here, you know, when it's pitch black or pitch dark at night and film the dash. So you guys are going to have to trust me. The 25th anniversary gauges are really nice. And I think I found where it is you dim the lighting on the gauges. And I just saw it last night when I had it lit up. So basically over here on the tachometer, we have a couple of buttons. And if you look at this button right here, it says next to it LED. And so I believe that you're going to scroll through some type of menu on the actual tachometer, and that is going to adjust the intensity of the LEDs in the backlighting for the gauges. But I'm not sure. I haven't gotten to that point. So that's really cool. Our glove box came out awesome. I showed you guys that in I think the last video. But one thing that I've done, since I'm still pulling the dash in and out of the car, I don't have it in there permanently yet. But what I did do is I put a grommet right here. So there's a grommet right in there. Let's see if I can get you guys in there to see it. And that is going to allow this pigtail, which is now wired into the car, to get access to the battery charger, the battery tender. So that will drop right through this grommet here, and the pigtail will actually be in the glove box. So you'll be able to just open the glove box, plug in your battery charger while you store the vehicle, and you're good to go. And it is hooked up now. As you can see, the battery tender was on all night, and it has brought our battery right back to the top now. So as it stands, I'm going to be working on probably the seat belts tonight. I think I'm going to get the lap belts in and possibly even the submarine belt. I don't know about the shoulder belts because I'm going to probably have to measure the ones in Slytherin to get a rough idea of where those need to be. But I think I'm going to at least pull the seat belts out of the bag and get them kind of squared away. And get those, get them ready to go tonight. But yeah, the turn signals and all that stuff work now. So let's see if I can hold the camera and hit the brake light. So, get you guys aimed in the right location. So there's the brakes. So we got brake lights now. And then if I turn the key on, let me see. I don't have either of those on. Hang on a minute, and I'll bring you right back, and we'll get one of the blinkers going for you. All right, and so we have blinkers now. So you can see we got the left blinker on both sides. And now if I bring this brake light back up to where I had it before, if I can do that delicate balancing act that I did yesterday to get this thing to hang up there. Will it do it? Yeah. There, close enough. So let's see if we can see that over there. So the brake light works while we're blinking on the other side. So we are good. So, crisis averted, and I managed to get that trailer light converter all kind of pushed back neat. I got a lot of the wires neatened up back in here too, so you can see, although it still looks like kind of a rat's nest, everything is grouped together, and all the weather pack connectors for all of the different sub-assemblies for the wiring are easily disconnectable, and that's my primary goal. So the only things that we really have to do to finish up the back of the dash now is to get the turn signal switch through the dash, which is these wires right here. We also have to get our tubing to their respective locations on each side of the car so that we can get our heater eyeballs mounted in the under dash panels. And then that's pretty much wrapped up. So I'm going to work on the seatbelts, and then I'll probably bring you guys back, if not tonight, probably tomorrow, and we'll take a look and see what kind of progress I made. All right, everybody. It's the next day. I had the car up in the air because I had to sweep the floor, stuff like that. And so while I was up in the air, I figured, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to take just a little bit of time, and I'm going to check nuts and bolts. And I had the starter disconnected because I had to redo some of the Coyote control pack when we moved that whole ECU forward. And so this morning I decided that I was just going to, while I was up in the air, go through the entire bottom of the car. Now I'm going to go through some of this stuff again when I do the four-wheel alignment, because I'll have the car up and down probably that whole weekend, because it'll take me a good solid day to get the four-wheel alignment done, and then I'll probably corner weight the car and do all that the next day. But regardless, I wanted to make sure I went through and nut and bolted everything, and I'm glad I did. I found that one of my grounds was loose. So my ground, I had this ground right there. I actually had it up there. And I don't know if you can see that, but inside that mounting hole, it's actually cupped. And so it takes about 1/4 of an inch before the bolt that goes in there catches threads. This one right here, it's threaded all the way to the outside. So I don't know if this just loosened up or that whether or not I just didn't get it tight enough before. But I figured, you know what, I'm just going to move it over to this one, and I got a star washer on it, so hopefully it won't back off, and it's all in, and it's good. I also had the starter disconnected. Actually, I had to disconnect the main starter wires only because I needed to get to the solenoid wire, which is right there. And so when I did that, I took the whole thing apart, because this wire right here, I rerouted. And again, you can see all the dust that Jeff Miller made when he was working on the car. We'll clean all that up before we go back and have the body put on. But so I rerouted that, and so I got all of this tightened back down. And then I just kind of went through the entire car back here. I checked all the nuts and bolts like these for the transmission mount, and back in here, and then everything back here. And I just want to get an eye on everything to make sure that nothing's leaking, everything's snug or tight depending on what condition it needs to be in. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lower the car back down. Before I do that, I wanted to show you one of the little things that I did. And it probably didn't need this because the hose was staying in place. It was actually it hasn't moved, and we've started the car up a couple of times. But I went ahead and I made a bracket, a strap for this lower radiator hose that hangs off of the sway bar, and it's not tight to where it doesn't have any play. It's just snug so that the sway bar can do its thing and the hose can do its thing. They can kind of move independently, but yet the hose, the weight of the hose anyway, is being held up by the sway bar. So that's done. And then up here, the power steering lines, I just had those tie wrapped to that upper tube, that upper X tube earlier. I decided I was going to have to do something more permanent to get that all in place. And so what I did is I used the cushion clips in a way that I've never done before. And basically what I did is I took the two cushion clips that are holding the hoses, and then I bolted those to a smaller cushion clip, the 3/8 or the 1/4 inch ones. And then I ran a bolt through the holes of the larger cushion clips, but through the actual opening where a tube would go through on the smaller one. So doing it that way, I created a swivel, and it allowed me to put those cushion clips in at the angle I needed. It allowed me to get my drill in here to drill for the 3/16 pop rivet. And so everything's in place. I used a stainless bolt and stainless lock nut, so that's all in place. And then where I couldn't get any straps and I wanted to keep the lines neat, I just added a tie wrap there and a tie wrap there. And then I made sure that the tie wraps themselves, the locking portion of the tie wrap, are hidden. Basically, when you look down from the top, you're not going to see them. It's just going to look like a black strap around the two lines right there. So it came out really nice. So for the most part, I'm all done underneath the car. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to lower the car down and I'm going to show you what I worked on last night before I went in for the evening. And then we'll just keep trudging forward today and trying to get as much of this stuff done as we can on the car. We had a major setback on the seat belts, so I'll get to that in a few minutes. But let me lower the car down, and then I'll show you what I got done last night. All right, we'll start on the driver's side of the car. And I wanted to find a way to make it to where the electronic flasher, if it ever needed to be replaced, could be replaced easily and not be hokey. They give you a little forked connector, electrical connector on the end, and I think what they expect you to do is like scratch some of the paint off of the chassis and put a screw in and, you know, screw that little forked connector to that for your ground. And hey, that's if you want to do it that way, you be you, I don't care. But I tend to want to do things to a little bit higher quality here in the shop. And so what I did is I added a spade connector. I cut off that forked connector. I put a spade connector on. So I put on a male spade connector on the flasher itself. And then I fished a wire down here, a ground wire, that I ended up tying into the ground for the headlight switch. Now this is a direct ground that goes right to the chassis for the headlights. That is what the headlight switch uses for the courtesy lights. So that ground, you know, has a ground connector right on the headlight switch, and then it switches that ground to activate the, in our case, the courtesy lights that we've put in the foot boxes. So I know it's a good ground, and so that's connected and that works. What I did on the other side of the car is, I don't know if you remember the bracket that we fabricated for our vacuum switch for the heater, but I went ahead, since I got that back from the powder coater, I mounted everything back on here. So I mounted the vacuum canister onto this, and then I mounted our vacuum switch as well. Now I still may go back and I may tidy up some of these vacuum lines just because I'm trying to keep everything neat, but I'm going to wait until we get probably the engine cover that we got, the Gen 1 engine cover that we've got from Mk4 for the Gen 3 Coyote, and then that'll determine how much of the stuff is seen, and then, you know, tell me how much of the stuff I got to try to hide. But so that got done last night. I got it all pop riveted in, top and bottom, and we made it look really nice. So since we're up here, you can see this is the wire that I had to relocate, and that happened when we had to move the ECU from here where it was originally mounted forward. It just, the way it was routed, it was kind of routed in through between one of the tubes and then down. And so I needed to keep it to where it was accessible if it ever needed to be disconnected or rerun or anything like that. So I just went ahead and did it when I had all this apart. You can see I've got some silicone in here. I got to get this excess out. But we're going to move on to probably the stuff behind the dash and get the dash pretty much finished up. I want to get the pigtail for our battery tender brought down inside the glove box. I want to get our heater and our wiper switch mounted along with our ignition switch, and get the dash mounted. I'm probably just going to mount it with Clecos now until we get back from Jeff Miller's, and then if I have to raise or lower the dash any, then I won't have to unscrew it. I'll just have to move it up, drill new holes into my mounting brackets, which are behind the dash, and then put in the finish screws and washers when we're done. The only thing that will be difficult or kind of tricky is I'm going to have to raise up the steering column as well, but I don't think that's going to be a huge issue. I'll just end up putting some spacer washers underneath of the Russ Thompson turn signal switch. So I think we've got that handled. I'm not going to put the under dash panels in yet because I still have to get in underneath the dash when we put the windshield in. So it just doesn't make much sense to do that. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to run our heating ducts over to each side and get them kind of routed so that when we do get back from Miller's, those will be in the right spot. We'll just have to put in the under dash panels and get those terminated. Now, the seat belts. This is the second car in a row. Jim's car, same thing. Jim wanted 2-inch wide belts for his car. And I gave that option to the owner of this car, but by the time he got around to ordering the belts, the ones that Jim used were out of stock. And so we went to our old buddies, RGS, who are the ones, you know, that have, I have those harnesses in my car, and I really like them because they'll recertify the harnesses after so many years. If you're tracking or autocrossing your car, I think they'll recertify them at least once, if not maybe twice. Then you have to buy new belts. Either way, you still got to pull them out of your car, but recertify them is a lot cheaper than having to buy new belts every 2 years. So we placed an order with RGS, and we ordered these Junior Dragster or Junior Drag Racer belts because they were in a 2-inch wide width. But there were no lengths on the belts listed either on the RGS website or on Summit's website where we ordered the belts. Well, they showed up, and the submarine belt, I kid you not, is like 10 inches long. And that's not going to work because by the time we have to wrap around the front of our seats, we need at least 18 to 20 inches of strap length to get the submarine, which, you know, has the cam lock on it, in the right spot. So these just weren't going to work. So I only took one out of the package, and I've since packaged it back up, and it looks like these are going to be sent back. So we we were kind of stuck because now looking at all of the different websites, there are just no 2-inch wide belts available. I mean, I can't say none. Simpson, which is another Holley company, has a set, but they're like $390 for a set of harnesses because they're Simpson. So I started looking at other options. And what I found is a mistake that we had made earlier when we did the Texas car that Ed and Kathy own, is we had mistakenly ordered these belts that were Hans device compatible. And so on the particular ones that we ordered, they not only had a reduced strap length where they go over your shoulder, but they also had a buckle that buckles on your chest. And that's to hold the Hans device and everything in place. So I started looking at options with the Hans device capable belts, and I found two options. And one of those is from RaceQuip, which is the Holley company. And they're not as inexpensive as the belts that we generally order from RJS, but they're available, and they're about $40 to $50 more per belt set. So I think that's what we're going to go with. I talked with the owner earlier today via email, and I think that's what he's going to do, and we're going to try to send these back, the ones that we got that are wrong. All right, so that's what's going on with the seat belts. I don't know, what's going to transpire, whether or not we're going to get a full credit for the seat belts or not. But like I said, they don't fit. So hopefully Summit will take them back. They've been really good about taking stuff back in the past. So I think they'll probably give us the credit for them, and we'll be fine. But I'm going to move on to working on stuff for the dash, and I'll bring you back when obviously I have something else to show you. Well, this is a welcome surprise. It was threatening all night, and we had a little bit of sprinkles this morning, but now this is some serious rain, so this will be good for us. So since I got the camera back on, I'll show you what I've been working on. I did get all of the heater ducts run, and you can see how tight this one's going to be with the glove box in the way, but it's just going to sneak by here. I have the pigtail for the battery charger in the glove box now, and there's enough slack on that, so if I have to take the dash out, I can lay it down on the tunnel, and we'll be able to not have to disconnect that. I made a notch. I actually used one of Mike Everson's trim pieces that I have for the other car as a template, and I made a notch in the dash for the wires that go through for the Russ Thompson turn signal switch, so I have that in place, and I've got the wires for that connected. Be careful on these guys, because on this one, and I'm not calling Russ out or anything, but the wires were backwards on this one. So even though he called out, it's the yellow and the white. He called them out in his instructions, even his new instructions. He called them out opposite of what this one was actually shipped. And it's not a big deal. I just depinned the connector, swapped them, put them back in, and it's fine. So just keep an eye on that. So when you do your testing, make sure that they're oriented the proper way, so that you don't get everything put all back together and then do a dope moment. I don't have any of the connectors for the dash connected yet, but since I was testing the turn signal switch, I did pull out one of the turn signal lights to verify that I had repinned it properly. And that's about it. It's about dinner time tonight, so I'll probably catch up with you guys tomorrow. I'm just going to keep at it. I'm going to get the dash a little farther along. I'm going to try to get all of the miscellaneous stuff on the car taken care of. I may even start on the front end alignment tomorrow. We'll see. The seatbelt thing really hurt me, but it's that's on me. I should have checked those seatbelts when they showed up. Just to make sure that they were going to work, and I waited. They've been sitting there for 2 weeks, and that's my fault. So I'll catch up with you guys tomorrow. Well, with the rain we had yesterday, today's kind of a crappy day. Sky's all gray, cloudy. I did a video, I don't know, a couple months back on replacing the door handle on the blue work truck. Thursday it broke again. And so this is what's left of the first replacement. Now I bought a pair of these because as cheap as they were, I figured I'd probably be replacing them again. So the handle itself broke off. You can see where the handle broke off right there. But what I found is that when I put this in the first time, it was tight, boy. You can see right here at the bottom where it kind of bit into the plastic material as I bolted it down, and you can see the outline of the washer-headed nuts that went on there, how close they are to the bottom. So basically, when this piece was produced, this clip on the bottom is way too far down. So this time around, I decided rather than just getting them to fit, I would make them fit by clearancing all of this bracketry, this plastic inside. And so I ended up cutting this plastic back to about this point on this side, and the same point over on this point here, on this side here. And I got it to go right in. And now it opens nicer too. It always seemed when I replaced it the first time like it was in a bind as you were opening it. It would only open at the very last like swing of the latch. So now it opens right at the bottom. You're not pulling it all the way up to get it to open. So it just works better now. So we'll see how long this one lasts. I'll probably order another pair of these things. Now that I know how to replace it, it's pretty easy to get it done. I think it took me 35 minutes to replace it, including putting the door panel back on. So we're going to put these where they belong. And then today what I think I'm going to do, first thing I'm going to do is roll that door down because it's cold outside. I think I'm going to work on pre-fitting the roll bars. Normally I wait a little bit longer, like right before I go to Jeff's, to get those pre-fit. And I'm only interested in drilling the holes on that stub there and this stub out here. This one here is easily accessible with the trunk open. And the way I do my hidden mount, I use a button head screw on the underside of the roll bar so it's not visible. I like to make those so that they match, especially when you're doing a passenger and a driver's side roll bar. And so I don't want to pre-drill everything and then not have them fit back exactly the way I do them. So I'll do those once the body's on the car, if that makes sense. I mean, I'm gonna pre-fit them, and I may drill the hole and tap for the button head screw, but I'm not going to drill the back holes because that way, if it's off just a little bit, the bolt won't go through. And so this way, once I get it all set up, I'll drill the hole, put the bolt in, it'll be done. So I'm going to go upstairs, I'm going to get the 2 roll bars, bring them down, and then I'm going to start working on that today. It's been a long day. The roll bars, which usually take me a couple hours, took me all day. It's Sunday. Now, I didn't get an early start. I think I came out to the shop about 11 o'clock this morning, and it's probably close to 6 o'clock right now. So I'll tell you how long I've been working on these roll bars. They just fought me from the time I started until the time I finished up just now and picked up the camera. So at the start, it was the driver's side that fought me. I couldn't get the rear leg to go on the rear stub mount of the roll bar. But once I got past that, and it was a simple thing, the chrome had built up on the edge and made the opening on the end of the actual third leg of the roll bar smaller, and it just wouldn't go on. So I got past that, and then the driver's side went in pretty good. I got it in, drilled, and the rear leg of it drilled and tapped, and it looks pretty good right now. The passenger side is way off. And so what it is the angle at which the rear leg is meeting the actual roll bar is off. And it's a fairly common problem, but I've been lucky lately. Maybe it's that I haven't been doing a whole lot of passenger side roll bars. I don't know. But we had passenger side roll bars on Michael's car. Granted, it was a Mark III, but those went in pretty much without a hitch. This one fought me. And so normally when I fit them, I don't worry about putting any lubricant, any grease on the stubs. I honestly don't want to get grease all over me, all over the car and everything else. But on this passenger side, I had no choice. I had to put wheel bearing grease on the stub mounts, both top and bottom, and position the roll bar to get the angle just right, and to get the bolt, the machine screw that we use to mount the third leg, in the right position to get it to thread in. And it's in now. But as I said earlier, I am not going to drill the bottom third leg mount yet. I'll probably do that after paint. I'm going to give you guys a little tip. Because the paint chips are hot, or not paint chips, scratch that. Because the metal chips are hot, they like to stick to the carpet. So just put some masking tape around the outside where you're going to drill. Anything that kind of goes outside of that is cool enough by the time it touches, it doesn't stick to the carpet. But this will all vacuum up really nice now. I did that on both sides. So I got the outside mounts, the inside mounts on both of the roll bars done. I've got our button head machine screw installed. I'm just leaving the tape on there for right now. I'm really disappointed in Factory 5's chrome right now. I not only was there excess buildup of chrome on the inside of both of the bars, but it's just so tender, and you have to work so delicately around it. Over here, it wasn't even on the side I was drilling. And there's a big old piece that flaked off of it. I don't know where it is. But in here somewhere. I ended up having to turn the roll bar around, make this the bottom and that the top, because it was better that way. Luckily I hadn't drilled it yet. So like I said, I'm really disappointed in the quality of the chrome plating. Now, Factory 5 doesn't do the chrome plating. I'm sure they have an outside company do it. But God, this is some poor quality chrome. I'm just so disappointed. So the roll bars are all fit. They're all ready to go. They will come back out of the car now that we've got them all positioned where they're going to go. I'm going to mark the rear legs of them, so on the tape that I have at the top, I'll mark them passenger and driver side, because they're probably just a little bit different. I don't want to fight them the next time they go in. But that's it. I'm gonna wrap this one up here. As always, we appreciate every view. If you're enjoying the content here, please do the like, the share, the subscribe, comment. Let us know how we're doing. We'll see you guys all next time. Have a great day.